All right. So I think while I was just listening to you talking, I was thinking, you guys talking, I was thinking, has made, what is it about me that's made my journey the way it is? And I think it's the fact that when I was younger, I was raised to be really incredibly spoiled. So I have found it so difficult to ever take no for an answer. I just don't understand why I can't have exactly what I want, and I just I think that is it. But yeah, when I was a teenager, I dropped out of high school about I think I was probably about 14. I again didn't understand why I had to go to school if I didn't want to, and I also was having some mental health stuff. I think my hormones were like on 10, and so I was just struggling. I grew up in the countryside as well, and it was only white people. I felt really isolated. I had no knowledge of or sense of self. So yeah, I decided not to go to high school anymore. And then I went to a college. I dropped out of that. And then I went to another college and I dropped out of that. I managed to get some GCSEs self-taught at home, and I just kind of just messed around and just was like really busy being like super cool and doing whatever I wanted. And then I ended up getting pregnant, and then things really changed. I couldn't compute it when I was pregnant, but once I had him, and his dad wasn't around, but once I had him, I thought to myself, I've really got to nail something down. You know, I want to provide, firstly, I want to provide for this person. And secondly, I've got to decide who I am, because he's going to be following me around everywhere I go, watching me. And he's going to know if I'm this type of person when I'm with these people and this type of person at home. I just got to get comfortable with myself and be cool with myself so that he at least sees that. Do you know what I mean? So that was that. And then the first 18 months of his life, we were here in Ipswich, and I was in like the baby haze, didn't really do anything apart from kind of like breastfeed and eat and occasionally walk to Morrison's if I felt like treating myself. And then Ty's dad and I just ended up having a really bad breakup, and I just had to run, not because I was scared, but because I knew if I was here, we'd end up back and forwarding and having something really negative for, I don't know, like how long's a piece of string. It would have gone on forever. So I moved to Brighton, where my dad lives, and I continued to do the same thing I'd been doing here, but I started to get more and more depressed about it. And one day I just started freaking out, and I called my brother and I said, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. I was just losing it. And he was like, you need to find something for yourself. He said, you need to just go back to college. So I went, and I managed to pick up the second year of one of the courses that I'd dropped out of. When I went and I applied, they actually said to me, no, we don't think you can handle it because you've dropped out of so many things. You've got 2 GCSEs. And I was like, what? No.
Needed to hear.
That.
I'm in that.
And then they agreed to let me do the course. So I did the course, and it was just an general art thing. And then one day a lady came and did like a speech on university and like the university progression. And I said, well, there's no point in giving me this speech, love, because I can't, it's out of my reach. I could never afford it. I'm a single mum. And she was like, oh, well, actually, if you went to university, you'd be better off with a student loan than you are on benefits. So I went out that night and told my dad, and my dad said to me, and they said as well, and if you don't get a job that pays you over a certain amount of money, you don't have to pay it back. So I went and spoke to my dad, and my dad said, oh, what a nice little scam, doll. You should do it. I've applied to go to uni. And I was just going to apply to do fine art because I literally didn't care. It was only about the money at this point. And then one of my tutors said, no, you should do textiles. So I thought, all right, doesn't really make any odds to me. I ended up doing a degree in textiles, and it was just like I found a place. I didn't mean to find it. I wasn't looking for it. But when I was a kid, I always used to draw patterns, and that is now what I do for a living. It's, you know, but I didn't think anything of it. And then things kept happening, like I didn't get my student loan, and I kept having to really fight to stay and fight hard to have my place on that course. It was like, if I hadn't have really wanted it, it was the first thing that kept kind of like slipping away from me. Everything else I'd left, but that kept trying to get away from me, and I was like, no, I will not have it. If anyone's leaving this, it's me. I'm leaving this course, not the course leaving me. So I had to fight for my loan, I had to fight for childcare, I had to fight for them to treat me equally, because they really were not, you know, going to university is not easy if you don't have people, your family, constantly able to like bung you an extra 300 quid when you get you. They say it's for everyone, but it's actually kind of not. And I was so angry for 4 years about everything, and if I'd had any spare time that I wasn't spending on my course, I'd have been like on the picket line out the front. So angry, and I still am angry about the education system. But then I had to do a year in industry, a placement year, which was really hard because my loan got cut from like £3,000 a year to like 750. And it was a crucial part of the course, because it's where you go out, you work for free, you make your industry connections, and you try really hard to get a job. And they'd already written me off when that placement year came along. They thought there was no way that I was going to be able to do it on the money, and with no having to be away from home. The tutors just thought I would progress straight to my last year and miss it out. But again, I wasn't having it. So luckily I had an amazing support system in my family and my friends. My best friend looked after Tyrus sometimes. She also gave me a place to stay when I went and did like a 2-week internship at Burberry, and I went and stayed at her dad's house in London. But during that year, I ended up getting a placement with a textile design company, which is in Rendlesham. So I would leave Tyrus there in the week, I would come all the way back, and then I would work at my textile internship, and then in the evenings I worked as a glass collector in Revs so I could earn some money to get through it. Yeah. And then I'd go home on the weekends, have a couple of days of time, then repeat it, because you had to do 6 months in industry overall, so it was quite tough. But when I was doing that internship, I just made myself like indispensable to the company. I really made myself so important. I tidied the studio, I made everyone tea, I came up with great ideas. And by the time it came for me to leave, I was already part of the furniture, and it wasn't really a question whether I would have a job or not. It was just a given. And I ended up graduating with a first and winning the undergraduate prize for my dissertation, and being the one of 2 people in the whole year to walk out to a job.
That's you.
But I still have never ever really taken no for an answer when it comes to like negotiating my commission. I don't understand why 70% is unreasonable. I don't understand why when I travel away for work I should have to stay in a horrible hotel. I don't get it. So I maintain to have a quite a spoiled brat attitude to life, and it's still getting me through. But
I need to get me some of that.
Yeah, but I think it's so, my son's been there the whole time. even though I've had to, I do feel guilty for leaving him in the year that I had to kind of be back and forward so much. It was really, really hard. But if it wasn't for him, I would never have pushed myself to do any of this stuff. And even like when I used to take him to uni, because he wasn't allowed in the workshops because there was machines, but if he was off school and he was sick, the girls was actually really, really sweet, and they'd let me like hide him down the corner by their looms. I'd put a coat over his head and slide my laptop in front of him. Or some days if I was behind, they would take turns. There was like 16 in my class, but they would take turns to take, like my good friends would take turns to take an hour and go downstairs and play with him for an hour, so I could get on for the whole day, and each one of them would only lose an hour. And I never asked them to do that, because I would never ask them to do that, but it was, he was there. But even like going through the university and like using my card to open the door, he thinks that university is like such a cool place to go. He loved it, and he's, I think he's seen how hard I've worked, and I tell him all the time, that he's lived here for 11 years with no rent, and and stuff like that, and he knows he knows that he has to go out there and get it for himself. And I think now he's a lot older, but having the support system that I've had has got me to a certain point, and now my family are a bit older, they can't really help me in the same way. But I made up my mind that I wanted him to go to private school, and he took the test, and they said, he's done well, but no, we can't offer him a scholarship. So again, I was like, hold on a minute, this doesn't sound right. So I went and I found some grants that I could get. I managed to get a grant for people who, for the educational expenses for the children of travelling salespeople. And it's because of my job that I've been able to get him into private school, because I had to say, if he doesn't go to this private school, he's not going to be able to board, and he's not going to be able to get this shuttle bus directly to Bilderston, where my mum lives. So if he doesn't go there and he can't get those things, I'm going to have to quit my job as a travelling salesperson. So it's enabled me to get this grant now, and it's kind of come full circle that my job is now enabling me to provide him with, in a way that I didn't even think. I thought it was just going to enable me to buy him like the nicest trainers, but it's actually enabled me to get him a great education as well. That was rambly, sorry.
Brilliant, thank you.